I've always been a history buff from a small kid. And anytime you can stand where historic figures or others have stood in the past, you know, and know that that person lived here or worked here or played here or did something here, kind of sort of to stand in the footsteps of this giant or this person you admire. Sure, it's almost magical. I was born in 1955. As a kid, I would stay with my grandparents. There were two local juke joints within earshot of my grandparents' house. I remember that music, waffling in the summer night. Ray Charles, B.B. King, Bobby Bland, even Elvis Presley, John Lee Hooker, and what have you. You'd hear that music, and I didn't really know the distinction. The various, distinctions of music. I just knew I dug it. My first real knowledge of blues and a blues singer was really John Lee Hooker through my Uncle Herman Davis. The B.B. King Homecoming Festival is a event that apparently started 37, close to 40 years ago out in Indianola, Mississippi. B.B. King, who grew up there or spent a lot of time there in his teenage years, I know, reconnected with some of his longtime friends and associates from there. I guess around the late 70s or around 1980. And, he had hit the big time by then, and he agreed to come back every year. The year that B.B. King died, 2015, a lifelong friend of mine, Ernest Boxer, and I, we decided to make that pilgrimage. And it just so happened that B.B. died a couple of weeks before the annual event was scheduled to occur, and it was normally during the Memorial Day weekend. We actually got into the church for the funeral service by me having the last name Davis. That miraculously got me in. We were about 3 feet from the door after the church had been filled. And apparently some family members of B.B. King's, whose last name were Davis, they were coming through. The sheriff was about to close the door. And Ernest and I were within arm's reach of the door. And the sheriff said, okay, is that it? Are there any more Davises? And Ernest nudged me. And I looked at him and I said, yeah, I'm a Davis. And the sheriff looked at me, and his deputy reached for my ID and looked at it, and she said, yeah, he's a Davis. So he said, come on in. And they closed the door behind us. But there was sort of an unspoken bond with everybody in 2015. We knew what had happened. We're in the process, in various levels of the process of accepting what had happened, but celebrating his 89 years, and I'd say the vast majority of those were spent bringing joy and pleasure to others, and through his music and through his fellowship and brotherhood and generosity with other people. And even in BB's later years, he would come and he would play for hours both at the venue there outside the museum, I think, where they had like a outdoor concert setting. And then later that night, he would go jam at Club Ebony, which was a long-established black nightclub in the Delta, right there in Indianola. And it has hosted practically anybody who was anything in the black music circuit or the chitlin circuit from, I guess, the late 40s through the 1970s. In honor of BB, there were musicians there from all over. Many of the fellows who had played with him previously in his band, or there at the annual homecoming, or just in and around Mississippi itself. There was this young fellow. He was sort of the master of ceremonies, and he's a true virtuoso. I'd never heard of him before, but now I'm a true fan. Stevie J Blues out of Jackson, Mississippi, and he's played with, you know, a lot of the greats in blues, and he's on his own now. Little Ray Neal, this is the Neal family out of, I think, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. But his brother Kenny Neal, Joe Eagle, a drummer out of Mound Bayou, Jimmy Lee, I think, is from over in Itta Bena at Mississippi Valley State University. Normally, museums and such are done after a person dies, but somehow BB was able to get his museum up and running at least, 10 years before he passed away. And it really is worth the visit for anyone who travels or loves to travel or has ever had any interest in the blues or the Mississippi Delta, civil rights, what have you. It's really worth the trip. Historic Riverside Hotel.
We had people stay here like muddy water.
Muddy water? There's muddy water?
He actually slept in this room here.
Slept in it? All right. Yes, sir.
Sonny Boy Williamson was on this side here.
This the muddy water room.
That's the actual furniture.
That's the
that he touched.
The first rock and roll song.
Was recorded right here in his basement.
Yes, sir.
This is what black people had to stay.
Black folks
Back
stayed.
in that day, we either stayed at someone's house
and Clarksville was big enough to have a place like this.
This is what we call our Bessie Smith room, because this was the operating room where she passed away at.
Is this right?
And so we converted into a bedroom. It's still family owned. It's in the third generation.
Mississippi is a lot of things to a lot of people, but one thing the state of Mississippi has done very well is document their blues history. The Mississippi Blues Trail is outstanding. They have so effectively documented the birthplaces, the places where musicians play. For a visitor to the state or a person who's into music, and particularly blues, it is a well-marked trail. I guess, the redeeming quality or the attraction, if you will, of blues to me. It's almost spiritual nature, it's emotions, it's soul and what have you. And regardless of what's being sung about or whatever the song is about or what have you, it's that richness of it, be it the music and or the vocals or a combination of both of them. Blues, gospel, and jazz are truly indigenous to America, true American art forms. So join me and many others like me. Let's keep these blues alive.